Haiti, a Caribbean nation full of natural beauty, but a place that's been racked with violence and political chaos for decades. In this video, though, we're going to be discussing why there is a lot of hope for that country. I'm Nick Miles, and this is the Global News Podcast from the BBC World Service. We're going to do that in the company of three people who know Haiti extremely well. Nawal Al-Maghafi is the BBC's investigations correspondent. She's been in Haiti twice this year, speaking to gang members and others trying to get by. Monique Kleska is a Haitian, a political activist based in Port-au-Prince. Pascal Soulage is another Haitian woman. She runs a local NGO fighting for women's rights. We're going to start with something that all the guests here are familiar with. Nawal and I caught up with Diana Maria Arroyo, who ran the medical charity MSF in Port-au-Prince until earlier this year. She began by telling us the difficulties facing people in Haiti at the moment.
I have to start with sexual violence. And this is something that we witness firsthand because we run a project since 2015 that provides comprehensive medical and psychological care for people that experience sexual abuse. This is a 24-hour 7 service, and we provide psychological care. So we have a team of counselors. We also have a team of social workers and the medical team that provides the clinical component. The clinic is called Pramem, which in Haitian Creole means take my hand. And there's something that we have seen very clearly since the beginning of the crisis that starts, the ongoing one in 2021 with the assassination of the then President Jovenel Moïse. There were many cases of sexual violence before, and that's why we opened the clinic in 2015. But in 2021, from that point onwards, we have seen cases tripling.
The breakdown in security across particularly Port-au-Prince means that children are also at risk. A lot of children are not at school because schools are closed in many areas. So it's a problem for children as well.
Yes, it is. I mean, just speaking to what Diana was talking about, when we were in Port-au-Prince, I went to the safe house for victims of sexual abuse. And the lady that runs this safe house took us to meet people at the balcony. And when we got there, it was all these very young girls. And I thought that these were the children of the victims that we were about to meet. And then I was actually told that these were the survivors of sexual violence. You know, everyone in Haiti is touched by this. You know, so many of the women, if not the majority of the women I spoke to when we were in Port-au-Prince, have experienced some sort of sexual violence living in the city. And their testimony is some of the most horrific I've ever heard covering the story. You know, you're talking about schools. One of the things that really caught my eye when we were in Port-au-Prince is whilst we were covering these horrific stories, it was amazing to see these young girls and young children coming out of school in the morning and in the afternoons, because it just reminds you of like how life goes on and a bit of normalcy. So I started looking into it, and then I found out that these were private schools, and the majority of schools that are still running in Port-au-Prince are only private schools. There are barely any state schools that are still functioning. Many of them have been turned into IDP camps to house people that have fled the neighborhoods that have been taken over by the gangs. And others are in gang-controlled territory being used by the gangs.
Diana, in terms of supporting children with psychological trauma as well, what kind of help is there out there for that in Haiti?
Yeah, so when it comes to sexual violence in particular, we see about 20% of our patients being under the age of 18. That, however, speaks only to those who are able, willing, and capable of coming to us. So that doesn't mean that that is the entirety of under 18-year-olds who are sexually abused. So when they come, they receive the comprehensive package of care, including seeing a psychologist.
I just wanted to move on to another aspect of the problems. It's that kind of financial insecurity, this widespread unemployment. People are in the casual sector just eking out a living. We've been speaking in Port-au-Prince with a local reporter, and we heard from a couple of people living in the capital about the challenges they're facing. One woman who was waiting in a public square in the capital told us she was hiding from her landlord because she hasn't been able to pay her rent for 3 months. She says the government gives her no help at all. And then a man nearby told our reporter that he's a mechanic, he can't find work. He said he's got nothing and sometimes thinks about killing himself. He says he won't do that, though, because life is an important gift.
Around 10% of the sexual violence survivors that we see say that stigma in particular could push them toward suicide. Now I'm only speaking about sexual violence, but we see other types of cases of patients. We supported over 2,000 survivors of violence in the city, including many civilians who are hit by stray bullets.
A challenge for people to live in. What about working in Port-au-Prince? Noel, electricity is sporadic at best. We just heard about the insecurity there. You went there several times, and even as an international journalist, with all the backup that comes with it, it's a challenge, isn't it?
It's incredibly difficult, but safety is definitely the biggest difficulty that you face day to day. I mean, we went in a bubble, but there was a lot of planning involved, right? We went to a nice hotel that had generators to take the place of when the state electricity cuts off. We had clean water, but that's not what the average Haitian has in Port-au-Prince. We drove around in armored vehicles to protect ourselves from any stray bullets. But just planning for this and thinking about all the kind of risks and mitigating them ahead of going to Haiti, you think, how do people survive this every single day? And they don't. They have to take risks because they have to feed their children. They have to bring home food. Some of the mothers that we spoke to said, and we saw it with our very own eyes. We were driving around Port-au-Prince in our armored vehicles, and then some shooting broke out between gang members and police. And there was this bus full of people who were heading to work, which had to just kind of hide behind cover as people were shooting across from either side of it. And this is what day-to-day life is like for the average Haitian in Port-au-Prince.
Listen, as we record this podcast, about 1,000 members of an international police and military force approved by the UN are on the ground in Haiti. To what extent is that helping the situation?
So we embedded with them twice. I went to Haiti twice within 7 months or so. The first time we went on a tour with them, they took us to gang-held territory. We were caught in crossfire between them and gang members. But they are in these big armored vehicles. It's very hard for them to move around. And the gang members, in their hundreds, are armed and agile and can, run around and shoot at the tires of these armored vehicles. In one instance, we were with them, they shot at our tires, they went flat, and we kind of had to limp in these armored vehicles out of gang-held territory. And it just gives you an idea of how little they can do because they're terrified of stepping out of these vehicles because they're outnumbered and they will be shot at. And just speaking to the officers, they are quite frustrated. They feel like they don't have enough support. On our second trip, we heard about these American mercenaries that had been brought in to support the Kenyan forces. And they were fighting the gangs from the air. And so I spoke to, during our trip, I went to meet one of the gang leaders. His name was Vaj. And I asked him if he was afraid of the Kenyans and if he was afraid of this new force of mercenaries that were coming to hit them from the air. And he said no, because how are they going to differentiate between us and civilians? We're embedded in society here and they're not going to be able to kind of sift us out. And he also gave me an idea of who they're going up against, these fanatics, basically. So, after spending time with the Kenyan forces, we really wanted to get the other side of the story. And we got this access to a gang leader. His name was Vaj. And we went into gang control territory on the back of this little minibus that they sent for us. and went to meet him. We had to literally sit in the middle of a road where we could get some cover because there was shooting happening in that area while we were there. And it gave us an idea of what they're up against. You know, the things he said to me, he said things like, when we're fighting, we are possessed, we become the devil. We'll come out swinging. He says, as a gang leader, it's my duty to fight and I'll never give up until the state sits down with us. And he also said, I asked him, how many people have you killed? And this man, he stood there with dozens of chains around his neck. He said that these chains I've taken from the people I've killed. And he said, then we take their bodies and we burn them. And at one point, when we were touring this gang-controlled area with the Kenyans, we saw a human body in the middle of the street being burnt there.
Well, listening to that is the Haitian academic and pro-democracy activist, Monique Gleska. Monique, given what we've heard, the sheer brutality of what we've just heard, what faith do you and other Haitians have that this Kenyan-led force can have any impact at all?
We do not, a lot of us, do not believe that it's a question of faith in the Kenyan force. I think it is a question of faith in the Haitians' capacity to resist and to mobilize so that we ourselves, with the police and with the armed forces, if they are adequately trained, supported, and given the equipment, can do this. So I think it is important to know this. One cannot depend on somebody coming from the outside to resolve your problems. So the Kenyan force to us, even when it was announced, was, it's helping, but it's on us. It is on us, Haitian men and women. So that is the first thing I think that is important to know, that most of us Haitians believe that it is up to us to do what needs to be done. Unfortunately, we do not have competent authorities who are willing to do what should be done. And this goes back years. This is a man-made crisis. And I think it is important to realize that. And it is the men and the women who can resolve it, Haitian men and women. Now, let me just give you an example. Recently, they had tests for policemen and policewomen. They had over 8,000 men, Haitian men and women who wanted to be policemen. They had tests for the army. They had over 2,000 who wanted to be in the army. So what happens? They don't put enough money for the training. They do not have enough instructors. And it is not part of the mindset that Haitians can actually do the job. Rather, it is, well, let's leave it to OAS. Let's leave it to the UN. Let's leave it to the Kenyan force. So bottom line, it is not up to the Kenyan force. It is up to us Haitian men and women. And I must say that there is a resistance. Yeah. There is a resistance because you have neighborhood groups that are organizing themselves to protect their different neighborhoods, whether it be in Okai, in Paco, whether it be in Keskov, whether it be in the Otibonite area. And a lot of them have managed to repel some of the gangs from taking over more territory. The problem that they exist is the following. When they take over the territory, or the police then take control of the territory, then who occupies it? Normally, it should be the army. Excuse me, but the army is not sufficient, and it is not sufficiently trained to actually do this. And this is where perhaps Kenyans or other nationalities could actually help us and hold on to those territories, consolidate those territories, because sometimes the police take over, clean up, control a territory, and in the evening or the next day, the gangs come back.
Monique,
and I think there is Excuse me, I want to add another thing. I think it is important to also say that really half or more of the country is living and not under gang control. And I think it is an unreported story in Haiti that men, women, and children in the NIP departments, in the Southern Department, in the Grand'Anse Department, and in the three Northern departments are living, albeit with difficult conditions because Port-au-Prince is the economic center, but it is an important angle that has to be reported so that one gets an overall view of Haiti that is not only brutality, but that is also resistance and that is living and that is culturally moving things forward. So I wanted to mention that.
Monique, that's an extremely well-made point. And I think now we can speak to a young NGO, a Haitian woman called Pascale Solage, who runs an organisation called Nigis Mawon, a women's rights organisation that particularly helps victims of sexual violence. Pascale, I was interested in reading one of the things you've been doing is trying to help women take part in and have a real impact on public affairs. How are you trying to do that and encourage people to do that?
The crisis we are living in Haiti, it's first of all, a crisis of governance. And the decision, the action, the influence we need to resolve this crisis are supposed to be decisions that people in power, in places of power, have to take every day to change the realities and the condition of living of Asian women. And for that, we need women to participate in those places, in those decisions, to take action, to make decisions that can be the ones they need as citizens, as women, as Asian women. And for that, women need their places in leadership, political leadership, and other places of leadership in the country because they are fully citizen, they are fully women, they are fully human beings, and they have the right to have their words in what's happening in Haiti and to have their right to have their voices in the places where they are taking decisions for the country. And for us, it's really important.
And Monique, do you see political apathy, perhaps if it has developed in Haiti over the last few years, being driven away by grassroots organizations like that?
Yes, because there is a lot of training that is going on, and there is a certain amount of investment in community that is going on. As a matter of fact, recently, in addition to other things that are being on, there is a Focula initiative that I'm part of, and we actually had an incubator of 3 weeks with 25 basically high school students, teaching them about leadership and about citizenship and about developing community projects based on their leadership skills. And there are other things like this that is going on. So I think it is extremely important because women constitute 52% of the Haitian population. So the involvement of women and the involvement of youth, because another data set that is important is that 64% of the Haitian population is under 24 years old. So not only does it mean that it is important to get them involved as citizens and build their citizenship, a type of just building their skills in that so that they can become involved. But it also sends a signal to the authorities once we have competent authorities that will have authority, that will have legitimacy, that social justice is an important component of every development. It is a must for the country to move forward when you have 64% of your population that is under 24, meaning investment in health, investment in education, investment in job training, investment in technology. So yes, we are seeing that youth are more involved, and I think Pascal Soulage talked about the anti-corruption and the anti-impunity Petro-Caribe movement that was largely driven by the Generation Z and mostly by women. So I think we are seeing that. But right now, we are not under a rule of law regime. We are under a corrupt regime. We are under a regime where the authorities, in quotation mark, are living, floating in total impunity. There is no rule of law that is going on. We don't have the right to life. We don't have the right to assembly. We don't have the right to justice. So we are in a situation right now where we need to get out of that. In addition, there is a lot of hunger. Over 1 million people.
In your trips to Haiti, what examples have you seen of that? People at a local level really thinking towards the future and looking out for a new Haiti where things function and there is security for people.
I'm really glad you asked that question, because I think we do always focus on talking about the gangs and the gang leaders and the fighting when we talk about Haiti. But what really struck me about Haiti is the people's resilience. And you spoke about the local men within neighborhoods that keep their neighborhoods secure. We went to Paco and to Kemskov and we spent time with the vigilantes, young men who, when we were filming with them, covered their faces with balaclavas because they didn't want the gangs to be able to identify them, but armed, and who take on rotation shifts, turns to keep their neighborhood secured. I mean, we toured with them and we could hear the bullets from the gang members on the other side of this fence, on this fence between the neighborhood that's gang controlled and the neighborhood that isn't. And they take it in rotation to keep their neighborhood secure. And just behind these men, there was a market that had, women and children and families getting food, going shopping, and they're trying, because the government is unable to, trying to keep their neighborhoods safe and to keep the gangs away. And also, when we were doing the story about sexual violence, we went to all these safe houses to meet these women. And a lot of these safe houses, one of them run by Neges Mawan actually, are run by Haitian women. And when we speak to them about, they come every day, they do courses to give these women agencies to be able to take care of themselves when they leave these safe houses, ways to work, they do education courses, they do mental health courses, really inspiring stuff. But when you speak to the teachers, the women that are running these programs, about where they're coming from, the trips they have to take every day, the places they have to go through to be able to come to work is incredible. I mean, it's terrifying, but also quite inspiring to see them come to work every day and to have that kind of resilience and want to make a change in Haiti. And also in the food distribution sites, we went to multiple food distribution sites where people would come to these kitchens to get food for the day, all run by local Haitian organizations, people coming together to provide for their communities. It was incredible to see.
And Pascal Soulage, you're a young Haitian woman running this charity for people who need help. What continues to motivate you? Clearly, you sense that there is still a possibility of great change in Haiti.
Because it's our country, because it's a place where 1 million people are living, because we are the ones who can ask, but also act for the change. In Neges Mawan, sometimes we are receiving 20 women asking for help at Neges Mawan, survivors of violence, but also displaced women, but also pregnant young girls from rape, but also people with economic problems and other kind of challenges they are facing every day. So these people, what they have, it's Haiti, it's their country, and it's our right to fight for this country and to fight for the country we want to see, the country we deserve as Haitian citizens and Haitian women.
I suppose it's worth mentioning also that Haiti has some advantages as a country. It's not ethnically split. Religious tensions are not high as they are in many other civil wars around the world, the civil war in Lebanon, what went on in Darfur, etc., etc. So Haiti has the potential to have unity and national pride, doesn't it?
Well, yes. However, we must admit that there is a certain amount of colorism that is remaining in Haiti. That is an issue we have to deal with. There is also massive inequality. And I think that is an issue it is an underreported issue because so few own so much, and the majority of the 12 million Haitian citizens do not have the fair chance that they should in terms of health, development, and opportunity. So, yes, in a way, we do not have the divisive issues of a religion or ethnicity or all of that, but we do have that. And I think one of the things that is extremely important is that one cannot expect for the country to be doing well when only a few hold the majority of the riches. It has to be spread out. There has to be a middle class. And for that to happen, one needs to invest in development, particularly education, technological, etc. But I want to bring in another point, which is this aspect of very often the international community is saying to us, well, you need to have elections today, you need to have elections right now, etc. Nothing positive or profound is going to come from rushing elections when the population does not trust the people who are in power. And I think that is where the international community can really invest in organizations like Neges Marron, CAIFAM, and other organizations, human rights organizations, women's rights organizations, and other such organizations, so that they can help build trust in education for the community, so that the communities can start trusting the authorities. It is a huge problem because when an authority says something, no one trusts it. And it is, and that's why one has authorities. It is because they would have authority, they would have legitimacy, and then mixed with power. But in Haiti, they may have the power, but they do not have the legitimacy nor the authority. So I think that is one aspect that is important. Indeed. We need elections. Yes, we are invested in a democracy and we want this, but we want elections like other countries have elections. We want democracy with the big D, not with a small d. So we want to be able to go to elections where we trust the process. And I dare say that the next election is a do not miss opportunity to massively invest in women, just the way that Rwanda had done after the genocide. Haiti now women have suffered in their skin, in their souls, in their bodies. And we need now, in order to change policies, to change the country, to really invest so that women can be more in positions of power. And I don't believe in the quota system like 30%. No, we're 52%. And we need to put in place things that, reserve seats. And why not have a quota that is equal to the population? So the point that I'm making is that this major man-made governance crisis, that is an economic crisis, that is also a humanitarian crisis. Needs for it to be resolved, to have youth and to have women as major drivers of the change that is to happen when Haiti, I don't say if, I say when Haiti relives again and takes its place on the international scene. Because wait a minute, culturally, we have Haitian women, one of the co-founders of Neges Marron, who has won prizes for theater. We have a major, her name is Gaëlle Bien-Aimé. We have Yannick Laens, a major novelist who recently won the Académie de France prize. So we have people on the international scene, cultural scene, that are showing the rich culture of Haiti. And what we need now for us then to occupy that scene, that political scene, that leadership scene, so that we can make the decisions to get Haiti out of economic poverty into the kind of rich culture and rich country that we believe it can be. And with youth, and I say youth because I'm a little older than people like Pascal Solage, and this is the future of Haiti, and this is the present of Haiti. We are in the resistance movement, and we are fighting hard to have a new Haiti that is democratic, that is free of violence, and that is moving forward on the social justice agenda.
Monique, I love that strong note of optimism. You're talking about when, not if, Haiti retakes its rightful place on the world stage. Time now, unfortunately, to bring this discussion to a close. I'm going to ask you all, if I can, what one thing would help Haiti on the path to greater peace and prosperity? And briefly, if you can, firstly, Pascal Solage, what's your brief thought on that?
For that, we need men and women who have this vision, who have the, not only the capacity, but who want to work for this, for peace and prosperity, because we need people in places who can really do what they have to do for peace and prosperity. So we can have money, we can have power, we can have everything. But if we don't have people in places with this vision, as Monique said, of an Haiti free, democratic, free of violence, with social justice, without impunity, without violence, we will never see a country with peace and prosperity. So we need the will to achieve a country with peace and prosperity, the good people in the good places. And with that, after that, with the resources, with the support also of other countries, other partners, we will achieve a country of peace and prosperity. But the first thing is the vision. The first thing is if we want to see this, we want to fight and we want to work for this. And after that, I think it's important that we have women in places for participating in that, having the men we have to choose to participating in that. And I'm sure that with this and with all we need after that, we will see a country of peace and prosperity.
Nawal, you're not Haitian, but you've seen Haiti recently. Same question to you. What change?
I mean, just picking up from what both Monique and Pascal said, when we were there last time, one of the things that really surprised me is how the international community is pulling away from investing in the things that really matter in Haiti. You know, we were visiting organizations like Neges Marron and other organizations supporting women and supporting other aspects that really need help and investment in Haiti, and the international funders are now cutting aid rather than increasing it, and are not investing in the things that matter in Haiti. And so I would say that the international community needs to keep supporting those organizations.
And a final thought to you, Monique. What change?
I think Adding on to what has been said, particularly by Pascal Solage, we need to have the committed men and women who are honest, who are visionary in positions of authority so that they can make decisions for the betterment of the population. Because what we have now, and I can correct a reporter who has said government is unable. I don't believe government is unable. I believe that government does not want to. And I think that is what makes the difference. Because there is money in Haiti. There is, but the government, and that is one of the big problems, is that the government very often ends the year without spending the money that is there. The international community then gives a certain amount of money, even if they are pulling out now, but you have the end of the year where the money is not spent where it should and how it should and in the amount that it should. So the key then is men and women who are visionary, who are in positions of authority to make the decisions to invest in people, to invest in democracy. And even I'll say something that maybe might be revolutionary. I believe Haiti should pay for its own elections so that the international community does not meddle. So again, it is a man-made problem, and it is a man and woman-made solution that we need so that we are in the positions of authority, we are legitimate, and we have the power to bring not only policy changes, but real changes in the conditions of people's lives. Haitians need and deserve to have honest leaders who are visionary, who can take the country forward. And we sincerely believe that these men and women exist, they are there, and what we need now is to shift so that we can be in the positions of power to make positive changes in Haiti to take the country forward.
Monique Kleska, Pascal Solage, and my colleague Nawal Al-Maghafi here in London. Many thanks to all of you. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you want more stories like this one, just look for the Global News Podcast wherever you get your podcasts from.